Good afternoon. My name is Dave. Thank you for joining our live interactive telephone town hall. This is an interactive forum and we would love to hear from you. We'll be taking as many questions from participants as we possibly can live on this event. If you have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time and you'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name and where you're calling from. The next time you hear your name, you'll be live on the call and you'll be able to ask your question directly. If you're streaming the event on our website, you can simply type your name and question below the streaming player. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can this evening. And now, here is United Cooperative Services General Manager and CEO, Cameron Smallwood.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cameron Smallwood. Thank you for joining us today. As a lot of you know, United engages its members in many ways, including through community meetings, its annual meeting each October, Texas Co-op Power Magazine, social media, and in regular daily interactions, just to name a few. And today we're leveraging this telephone town hall platform to engage our members. During our time today, I will provide an update on major initiatives at the cooperative, but also on our continuing navigation through the challenging issues posed by the ERCOT market forces on costs and last year's winter storm Uri's impact on the Brazos Electric Bankruptcy. We'll also finish with an update on our high-speed internet project. If you want to follow along with our slides, you can go to our Facebook page right now and click the link to join via your computer, your tablet, or your phone. So I know your time's valuable tonight, so I'll try to be as efficient as I can. As the moderator said, you can ask questions by pressing *3 on your phone keypad.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. And as I mentioned, this is an interactive forum and we'd love to hear from you. We'll be asking as many questions from participants on the phone and online as we possibly can during this live event. If you have a question, once again, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time and you'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name and where you're calling from, and the next time you hear your name, you'll be live on the call and you'll be able to ask your question directly. If you're streaming the event online, you can simply type your name and question below the streaming player. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can this evening. If we're not able to address your question today, please leave us a voicemail after the event by simply remaining on the line or call our office at 817-556-4000. Again, that number, 817-556-4000. If you have any questions, please press *3 on your keypad or type them below the streaming player. Now I'll turn it back over to Cameron to start our topic discussions.
Thank you, Dave. We'll go ahead and get into our presentation tonight. I'm going to try to be as efficient as I can. As I said, we have about 1,000 folks listening tonight, and I appreciate you taking time with us. Hopefully I'll be able to answer a number of questions that you have. I'm already seeing some of the questions come up, and I know my presentation is going to cover those topics. So, again, thank you for being with us tonight. You know, first thing I'd like to let everyone know, United, you know, it's your cooperative, and at the end of the day, that's what we're all about you, the member. You know, our mission is exceptional service and value to each of you, and we work really hard every day to do that. To be clear, United is a not-for-profit electric distribution co-op, and what that means is any profit that we do make from year to year just goes back to our members, and so it doesn't go to some shareholder somewhere else or go into somebody's pocket. It always goes back to you, the member, and so that's our business model, and we're really proud to serve you via that business model. Now, your co-op is a pretty large co-op. We're one of the largest in the country. We have almost 70,000 members, almost 100,000 meters, and so that's a pretty large co-op as far as electric co-ops go. We serve you over about 11,000 miles of line. We're almost a $700 million business, so we're a very large co-op. And I think the good news with that is we're able to spread costs amongst more people and help keep our costs low, all working together. We've got 7 offices and almost 200 employees that serve you between our electric and our internet employees, and we're really glad to have such a great group of people serving you each day. Now, we're going to cover a number of topics with you today, and we're going to ask you some questions, too, because this is your cooperative, and we've got some things that we would like your input on. And so I sure hope you'll stick with us for a little bit and answer those questions and participate in those polls, because those are very important questions that we're going to ask you tonight as members of your co-op. So our topics today, we're going to talk about the industry, about the bankruptcy of Brazos. We're going to talk about some market trends and prices. We're going to talk about managing your energy use a little bit, and also the internet status, because I know many of you are going to be asking questions about that. So to get into our topic today, our industry is an interesting one in Texas. It was deregulated back in '99, and we went through that at your co-op. The legislature back at that point in time, when deregulation happened in this industry, gave electric co-ops and municipal utilities, so cities, the right to not participate in retail competition, and we chose that. We did not enter into retail competition, so we stayed somewhat integrated. And from that standpoint, it's important to understand that we don't have an REP. We don't have that process like if you're up in Dallas and Fort Worth. We chose not to do that because it really wasn't the right thing for our members at the time. And so there's an organization in Texas called ERCOT. A lot of you've heard about ERCOT. They got pretty popular back in the Winter Storm Uri times. And during that time, they were sort of used as a scapegoat as to why everything broke. Well, ERCOT's really just the traffic controller of the grid in Texas. They don't own generation. They don't. Really, the only assets that they own are buildings and some computer systems in order to monitor and help the generators and the transmission utilities and distribution utilities control the grid. And so they're responsible for system reliability, open access to the transmission grid. They do manage the retail switching process amongst all the REPs. And then the big thing that they do is they help settle the market. And so ultimately, funds go to ERCOT and funds go out of ERCOT to the different loads and to the different generators through the process. And it's a complicated process. I'm not going to get in depth with you, but ERCOT is just there sort of to manage the process, if you will. On the next to talk about is the ERCOT market is really broken up into segments. There's generation providers, there's transmission providers, there's distribution providers, and then load-serving entities is what they're called, and then there's consumers, like you and I at our homes and businesses. Now, in our case, we have sort of two entities that cover all of those duties, and that's Brazos Electric Cooperative, which is a generation and transmission cooperative that United co-owns with 15 other distribution co-ops, and then there's our part of the business, if you will, United Cooperative Services. And so we sort of take it from the substations and get it to you. Brazos handles everything from the substations back to the generators and our tie with the market on our behalf. And so that's sort of our delineation of duties. If you are in the Oncor area, Oncor just has a piece, and then there's REPs, and then there's more parties that basically play a role. So we're still integrated to some extent, even after deregulation, which has been a big benefit to our members over the years. We have less folks that have to make profit, if you will, along the chain, and we've been able to pass those savings on to you, and we've always been very competitive with that. And that's how we still operate today. Now, with that said, back in February of last year, which that seems like a long time ago, we had this little storm called Uri. Obviously, it wasn't a little storm. It was a really big storm. It was a storm that caused hundreds of billions of dollars of damages in Texas. It was a really nasty thing. The financial ramifications to the utility market are still occurring today, also to the gas markets as well. Obviously, it was a bad situation for loss of life. Almost 300 people lost their life. And it caused the Texas legislature to get involved in a number of things to try to fix things going forward. And we've been very involved in that process as well. And so I've got a question for you, a polling question, and I'm going to let Dave run that. Dave, you
all right.
take that?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll take that, Cameron. Sorry about that. The first question is, the first polling question is, how did United perform during Winter Storm Uri in 2021? On your telephone keypad, press 1 for outstanding, press 2 for just okay, press 3, not so good, or 4, I don't know. Again, that question is, how did United perform during Winter Storm Uri in 2021? Press 1 for outstanding, 2 for just okay, 3, not so good, or 4, I don't know. And while we're gathering some of that information, I just want to remind you that this is an interactive forum, and we'd love to hear from you. We'll be taking as many questions from participants on the phone and online as we possibly can live on this event. If you have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and you'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name, and the next time you hear your name, you'll be live on the call, and you'll be able to ask your question directly. If you're streaming the event online, you can simply type your name and question below the streaming player.
All right, Dave, go ahead and go to the second question.
Okay, you bet. The second polling question is, have you been billed yet for the energy charges from the 2021 Winter Storm Uri? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no, or 3, I'm not sure. Again, that question is, have you been billed yet for the energy charges from 2021's Winter Storm Uri? 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3, I'm not sure. And we have some results in from that first polling question. The polling question is, how did United perform during Winter Storm Uri in 2021? And I'm wondering if we could get our team to pull up that poll so that I could take a look at those results real quickly.
Hey, Dave, we're going to keep moving. I'll announce it here in just a second.
Absolutely, that's fine. I'll go ahead and kick it back to you, Cameron, if you want to keep going.
Yes, I do. Thank you. And so I'll just talk about the results. And so the first poll, a good majority of you said we did outstanding, which I believe we did. There's a handful of you that said not so good, and I apologize if it affected you negatively. I think we did as well as any distribution utility could have done, and we recognize that for that by a number of folks in the state. As far as being billed for the energy charges, most of you have said you're not sure, but about 26% of you have said yes, and 7% of you have said no. And I'll let you know sort of where we're at there. The answer is no, you haven't. And so those of you that said no and I'm not sure were correct, I guess. And those of the 26% of you that said that we have billed you, ultimately, unfortunately, that's not the case. And so what happened after that event? Bottom line is a lot of financial stress was occurred in the market. And Brazos Electric Cooperative, who transacts in the market on our behalf, they had some generation issues because of lack of gas from the gas market basically freezing out, and there were a number of other issues, and ultimately there was a pretty big bill sent to Brazos that Brazos didn't pay. And the reason Brazos didn't pay is because they believe, bottom line is that not all of that was owed. And so in order to attempt to protect our members of the 16 different co-ops, Brazos Electric filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And so that occurred, and when that occurred, that stopped that bill from being able to be collected. And now we've been in court, in bankruptcy court, for the last over a year now, I guess 14, going on 13, 14 months, trying to work through these issues. Had Brazos billed us that bill, and had we passed that along to you, that would have been almost $2 a kilowatt hour. And so the average usage for many of you during that time was somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 kilowatt hours during that February month. And so had we sent that bill to you, you would have had a bill somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000. And obviously we didn't feel like that was a reasonable decision, and we were pushing on Brazos along with the other co-ops that we needed to look at all options before we did that, and that's exactly what happened. So you have not been billed for that, and we're doing everything that we can right now to keep from billing you that through the bankruptcy process, and we're working hard on your behalf. We don't know the end result of that yet, but I will tell you this. If we have to pay the full amount that is deemed due, the only way for us to do that is to basically put a mortgage out there, if you will, and that's something that you're familiar with. If you take a mortgage out for your house, we can do the same. The Texas legislature passed a law in the last session that allows co-ops to do that, and so we can take advantage of that. Now, how that would be implemented is one of two different ways, and this is going to be the next polling question that we have for you, so please pay attention to how I explain it. We really have two ways to bill it to you. Option one is to do a per kilowatt hour charge, which is much how your energy usage is billed to you today. So ultimately, how much you pay each month for that securitized amount, for that mortgage, so to speak, will depend on how much you use each month. And so if you use more, you would pay a little bit more. If you use less, you would pay a little bit less than everyone else. But on average, you would pay about $30 a month extra. Or we can go with a fixed monthly charge, and ultimately we would have just a fixed charge on your bill each month, regardless of the amount that you use each month. And so you would know what that charge is each month. And of course, I told you the average of the kilowatt hour charge would be 30, so the actual fixed monthly charge would be just under $30 a month. Now that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, and we're working through the bankruptcy court to get those numbers down. We're hopeful we can get them significantly lower than that, and we're spending a significant amount of effort on that. But ultimately, that's sort of the worst-case scenario, what I'm telling you right now. So there's really those two paths, and we really want your input as members as to which way you would prefer to be billed that if in fact, we do have to put that on the bill. And so that would be the next polling question. Dave, you want to take it?
Yeah, you bet, Cameron. The question is, which securitization option would you prefer? Press 1 on your keypad for a kilowatt-hour charge. Press 2 for a fixed monthly charge. Again, that poll question is, which securitization option would you prefer? 1 for a kilowatt-hour charge, 2 a fixed monthly charge. And I'll turn it back to you, Cameron.
Thanks, Dave. And for those of you voting right now, the kilowatt-hour charge, was probably, and I had it on the screen. I didn't say it out loud. I know some of y'all aren't following along with the slides. It's probably about 1.5 cents, 1.2 cents per kilowatt-hour, somewhere in that range. So a little over a penny. Or you can do the flat charge. And so we're getting those results back in, and I'm seeing it's about half and half right now, maybe just a smidge over half that would prefer a fixed monthly charge over a kilowatt-hour charge that would change with your usage. So, but it's pretty much split evenly right now with about 400 or 500 people voting. So I appreciate that feedback. Unfortunately, y'all didn't y'all were equal, so half and half. So we'll have to figure out that as we go forward. But I want to keep going right now. Thank you for your feedback there, and I want to talk about the costs of your bill each month. And so I know there's questions related to the cost and what it looks like now compared to a year ago. And you're right, the cost has gone up. But every dollar that you pay United, I want to be clear about that. 70 to 80% of that dollar that you pay to United in your bill each month actually gets forwarded straight to Brazos. So Brazos, in their duties to do the generation, the market settlement, the transmission and substation service, is a big hunk of your bill every month. And so I want you to understand about that. The second part of that dollar is that 20 to 30%, and that goes to United. And so we operate your business, your co-op, on that 20 to 30% of that dollar that we collect each month. The 70 to 80%, we don't put any markup or profit on that. Whatever Brazos bills us, we bill you directly. And so there is zero markup on that when we get that bill. So I want that to be clear as well. Now, I've got a copy of the bill, and this was a February bill of 22. So this is what a normal bill looks like for a member. And if you look at that breakdown, in this specific month, in this specific example, this member, 76% of their bill went to Brazos and 24% went to the UCS delivery charge. And so ultimately, and this bill was for 4,400 kilowatt hours for those of you that aren't looking at it, and it was about a $500 bill for that 4,438 kilowatt hours. So if you pay attention to that, that same bill was probably in the $300 mark this time last year. And there's a number of reasons that bill has gone higher, and I want to explain those to you right now. So number one is fuel costs, and that's the driving factor of the difference in cost between last year and this year. A lot of the generation in ERCOT, actually the majority, is run off of natural gas. And for those of you that have paid attention to the price of natural gas a year ago, that price was running in the $2 to $2.50 mark. Today, it just closed last week at almost $6. And so the price of natural gas has more than doubled from last year to this year. And that's a really big component of why your bill has gone up, because a lot of the generation that we support you with is based on natural gas. And then what we buy on the market is also based on natural gas. So those two things together have increased fuel costs, which directly go to your bill. The second thing is there's a number of new regulations and compliance and weatherization things that have happened in ERCOT since the winter storm last year, and we've had to implement a number of changes. And ERCOT and the PUC have implemented a number of market changes, and because of that, they have driven up the cost in ERCOT for everybody that buys settlement energy. And then the last thing is the market in general is more risk averse. So ultimately, there were a lot of companies that had issues just like Brazos had last winter, and ultimately it's caused everybody to hedge more and to basically take less risk, which has cost everyone more money. And so those three things together is why your bill is significantly higher. On the screen right now, for those of you that are looking, you'll see the natural gas curve and what that cost has been. And you'll see the last 7 years the cost has been relatively low, which is something that we've all got to enjoy, that lower cost of natural gas. And unfortunately, the gas has picked up significantly again. And that's, like I said, the key driver as to why your bill has gone up. The next page that I show on the slide is our April 22 rate watch. And so those of you that get your magazine, Texas Co-op Power Magazine, we actually have information that we show where we stack up against all other providers. And while we're still lower on the left of the chart at 12 cents, it's still a lot higher rate than you were at 8.5 cents a year ago. And so that's something that we're not excited for you as members. I'm a member too. My bill's a lot higher as well. But ultimately, we're still very competitive in the market, even though our rates are higher right now. You'll see the solar rate there. I'll talk about that in a little bit. To go on, if you look at that rate watch a year ago, and that's what I was saying, you'll see our rate was 8.67 cents. And so, yeah, from 8.67 to 12 is a really big difference, and I understand that. But know this, we've done everything we can at your co-op to try to mitigate and keep those numbers as low as possible. But ultimately, we're still cheaper than the market right now, even though our rates are higher. And you can look at powertochoose.org if you'd like to check us on that, and you'll see those rates, and they're actually going up every day right now. Now, I've got a detailed look on the April chart, so you can see of all the different REPs and where we stack up, and we're actually, our solar rate is the cheapest in the market right now, and so that's a good thing. And then our standard rate, the 12 cents, is actually one of the better rates in the REP market right now, even though it's higher. And so I wanted to just highlight that to you. The next graph, just quickly, back in June of 2008, this is the last time that we had high gas prices, to the numbers similar to what we're talking about now, actually a little bit higher. And our rate at that point, we were the lowest in the market, but we were 12.8 cents. And so what that tells you is if gas prices continue to go up from here, which we don't really know whether they will or not, there's still, we're not at the highest rate we've been in the last 15 years. 12.8 was the highest that we got. And so I hope we don't get anywhere near that. Based on all the projections we're seeing right now, we don't think we're going to have to go higher than where we're at right now at 12 cents, but we don't have total control over that situation. So if something happens in the world economic situation and natural gas goes up to 8 or 9 or 10, we're going to have to go up some more to recoup that cost that Brazos bills us. But what we're seeing right now is we believe the natural gas is a little bit more stable at the pricing level it is right now. But as y'all understand, one world event can change that pretty quick right now. And so we're hopeful that doesn't happen, but want you to be aware of it. The next chart that I have on the screen right now shows the breakdown of the cost that we bill to you. The blue is us, and the red is the Brazos. And those of you that can't see this on the screen right now because you're on the phone, the blue area is pretty flat. Our rate is pretty flat, and you see a little adjustment back in 2014, the last time we raised our rates. We had to do that again in October this past year. That doesn't really show up on this graph yet, but it will. but our adjustments are very modest. We're talking anywhere between 4 and 6%. The red is the Brazos, and you can see the volatility in what we bill you each month is really in the Brazos cost. And that's really tied to the natural gas market. And so I just want to highlight that with you. And one thing that's coming up out of the bankruptcy, and this is the next polling question, so again, I'd like you to really stick with me here so I can get your answers. It's very likely in the Brazos bankruptcy that once Brazos exits from bankruptcy, that they may no longer provide power to us for you. And so if that happens, we've got really one of two things that we can do. Option one is really us taking that responsibility and going to market and getting market power for you, and not Brazos doing that, but United doing that for you on your behalf. Or option two is we could opt into retail competition. I talked to you earlier that we had made the choice to not do that, mainly because we didn't feel like it was going to be beneficial for you, and that's really played out over time. You've had a lower cost option than being in the market. But we recognize that some of our members may actually want to be in the retail market and choose their retail electric provider instead of us. And so we really have two paths right now, and we're getting feedback from our members as to which path you would like us to go down. So that's the next polling question, and just to make it clear, path one is really United taking on that responsibility that Brazos has today and procuring that power on your behalf and managing the risk of that, which we would do a good job of that for you. Or option two, we would basically start the process to opt into retail competition, which would take about 2 years to get that done. And then once we're done with that, you would actually select the REP yourself. We would just be the wires provider at that point, just sort of like Oncor is today in Dallas-Fort Worth, but you would get to choose whichever provider that you want. And you would sign the contracts with them. They would probably bill you, and we would just be a line item on that bill. And so that's sort of the two paths. I'll pass it off to Dave.
Okay, Cameron, thank you. The polling question is, how do you wish your power supply to be managed? On your telephone keypad, press 1 for I want United to continue to manage my power supply needs. Press 2 if I want to pick my energy provider. Again, the polling question, how do you wish your power supply to be managed? Press 1 for I want United to continue to manage my power supply needs, and press 2 for I want to pick my energy provider. And I'll turn it back over to Cameron now.
Dave, thank you. And I'm watching the votes come in right now, and it's a strong majority of you would like your cooperative to continue to manage your power supply. And that's what we've been hearing from member groups that we've been talking to here the last couple of weeks as we've been asking this question of our members. And I've gotten a clear indication that you really don't want your cooperative to opt into retail competition. So I'm getting that message loud and clear. And so because of that, and you're really helping us out on this decision to go forward. So ultimately, thank you for that response. 92% of you said that you would prefer your cooperative to continue to manage the power supply, and that's definitely what we're going to take that into consideration. And the board is going to see this information and be able to help make those decisions as we go forward. So thank you for giving us that feedback. We'll continue on with the presentation. The next thing I'd like to talk about is really, what can you do to manage this energy cost? So as power prices have gone up through Brazos and through the market, we recognize that this is a really difficult time for many of you. It's not something that we enjoy watching our members struggle with power cost. And so, we try to do all the things that we can do to help you out. And so if you're having difficulties with this, please call our MSRs and talk to them, and they can talk to you about the different tools that we had to help you out. But I will say this, the key driver of your energy cost is really your HVAC system. And so in the wintertime, when it's cold outside, your heater runs. And, we hear comments from our members that, well, it's, I left, I wasn't there, I turned my thermostat down to 70 or, comments like that. Well, when it's 20 degrees outside, your heater's going to run. Even if you turn your thermostat down to 50, your heater's going to run because there's just too much it has to do to stay at that level of temperature. So we have a graph on the screen for those of you that are watching. The graph on the screen shows very clearly anytime the temperature goes low that the heat kicks on and the energy usage is very significant. Heaters use a lot of energy. And so whether it's a central HVAC heater, furnace, or it's space heaters, whatever that is, they all use a lot of energy. And so I understand you got to stay warm, and we understand that and appreciate that, but we just want you to understand heating drives the use big time. Same thing in the summer. You go and turn on the air conditioner drives your use in the summer. Most of your energy use in the summer is from AC. And so how do you do that? How do you fix that? How do you help that? You upgrade your HVAC system if you can. We have rebates to help you do that. You also can work on the envelope of your house if possible, adding insulation, those kind of things. We help you do that as well. I would encourage you to call in and get a free energy audit because we'll come to your home and we'll actually do that for free and help you figure out where to basically waste less energy. And I would highly encourage you, if you haven't done that, take advantage of that service. The other thing that I want to talk to you about is the solar rate, and I showed you earlier, or talked about earlier in the presentation, the solar rate being the cheapest option actually in the market right now. And I've got a bill showing on the screen right now for those of you that see that as to how we manage that. So it's our community solar program, and ultimately it's like having a solar panel on your house, but we've signed long-term agreements to several solar providers, and we take that energy at those fixed prices. And whatever a 2 kW or 4 kW system would use on your house, that's your first energy, and it's really cheap. And so ultimately, if you sign up for that program and you qualify for that, which most of you on this phone do, you can save some real money. And members that signed up for that program last year saved almost $500 on their energy cost over the year last year. And so we do have a limited number of spots because we have a fixed number of solar panels that we're buying from. And so if you haven't signed up for that, I would highly encourage you to do that and do it quickly before those spots run out. And hopefully once the Brazos bankruptcy clears up, we'll be able to go out to market and buy some more long-term solar agreements at low cost and then be able to expand that program even more to help members control their power costs. So I wanted to highlight that. You might ask how to do that. Just call into our office and get an MSR and say, hey, I want to sign up for the solar program, and they'll help you out. The other thing is your Operation Roundup program that most of you participate in, and that's so if your bill is $100.22, it gets rounded up to $101. That extra money goes into Operation Roundup, and Operation Roundup funds a lot of different organizations in our territory. We've put a lot of that funding into bill assistance here the last 2 years. First with COVID and now with higher gas prices, we know our members are hurting. And so there's a number of organizations that you can reach to as members to get help with your power bills. And I have a number of those on the screen, but just call into our MSRs, look at our website, look at our Facebook page. We post stuff on there regularly about it. We understand that a number of you are hurting, and there's ways to get help right now. And so I just want to encourage you to do that. And the last thing I'm going to talk about today, before I take questions, is an update on the Internet projects. I know you're all very interested to know what that is. So we're moving as quickly as we can move to continue to expand the Internet service in our territory. I know some of you are not happy with where we're at right now because you don't have Internet from us yet. But know this, we're working feverishly to get that done as quickly as we can. We have installed over 3,200 miles of fiber at this point. And recognize we started installing fiber about 2 years ago. So that's a lot of work in a relatively short amount of time. So we've done that, and we're continuing to expand that today. We just hit 11,000 subscribers on the fiber system today, and so that's really exciting. Glad to see that. We continue to add 500 to 600 a month to the system, and so we're knocking it out of the park as far as how many we're adding each month. I do know that a lot of you are waiting, though, and I know you're waiting, some patiently, some impatiently, but we're trying to get to you as quickly as we can. But I can tell you, our members that have it, and I'm one of them. I finally got it recently, and I'm saving money, number one, and I've got great Internet service, and I look forward to the day that all of our members have access to that, and it's going to be soon. So we're working hard on it, and I want you to be aware of where that project is. You can go to our website at ucs.net/internet, or you can just click through it as well to sort of see the status for those of you that are watching the screen right now. I've got a graph or a picture displayed of where we plan to have service completed by the end of this year. And you'll see that we're not only in Johnson County, but we're in Erath and Bosque and Palapino and counties all around, and Hood, you name it. So we've really pushed to get out in the service area and really get internet as many places as we can. And we're not slowing down. We're pushing ahead. It's been a challenge. Supply chain has been a problem at your co-op to keep up with electric and internet, but so far we've been able to continue to deploy the internet at the speed that we are, and we're able to continue to do that. Hopefully we'll continue to. So just wanted to let you know that's my update for today, and we're going to move to some questions and then try to give some time for that.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. Once again, I just want to remind everybody that this is an interactive forum, and we'd love to hear from you. We'll be taking as many questions from participants on the phone as we possibly can for this event. If you do have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and you'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name, and the next time you hear your name, you'll be live on the call, and you'll be able to ask your question. If you're streaming the event online, you can simply type your name and question below the streaming player. And in fact, we're going to go to an online question to get the question and answer period started. And this comes from Craig Walker. Craig asks, how many months of a fixed monthly charge would it take to securitize the Brazos charge?
Greg, that's a great question. Here it's sort of bad news. I said mortgage. Well, typically when most folks take out a mortgage, it's a 30-year mortgage. For us to get the cost down as low as it is, we're having to go 28 years on that mortgage. So that's how many months, 28 times 12, it's going to take to pay that back. And just to be clear with everybody on the phone, if we get billed the full amount that Brazos could bill us, that amount is about $530 million, just to put it in perspective. So it's a really difficult situation, but in order to try to make it as affordable as possible, we're going to spread it out as long as we can by the law that was passed. And so hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, our next question comes from Terrell McGath, and he wants to know, what is United's position on individual solar installation and the companies that are soliciting to install solar panels?
Yeah, that's a great question too. We're very supportive of our members that want to do solar. What I would ask for you to do, though, it's even at our rates at 12 cents, it really doesn't make great financial sense unless you just have money burning a hole in your pocket and you want to install solar panels. But we have people here that work at the co-op that can help calculate the savings for you and the payback and help you size the system so you can get the best advantage out of the rate that we have for the solar. We do see a number of members that don't talk to us, and they go and they install a really large system, and that's not really necessarily the best thing for you as far as the dollars that you're going to spend and the benefit that you're going to get out of it. And so I would highly encourage any member that wants to install solar or looking into it to reach out to us and let us do those calculations for you. Another thing, just to let you know, we're probably going to start actually offering solar installation services here in the next year or so. We're looking strongly at it. We're likely going to be doing it. The reason is we believe we can do it cheaper and better. And the other thing is we're not going anywhere. Many of the solar companies that are installing systems for our members today, they sell and then they disappear. And then when our members have problems, they call them and they get the dreaded doo-doo-doo, I'm not available. And so they end up calling us and asking us for help, and we get them to other vendors. But we're seeing a need for that in our service territory, so you'll probably see your co-op start working on that business here in the very near future.
Okay, thank you. I just want to remind our callers, if we're not able to address your question today, please leave us a voicemail after the event by simply remaining on the line or call our office at 817-556-4000. Again, that number, 817-556-4000. And now we're going to go take a live phone call here, and this comes from Gene in Granbury. Gene, you're on live. What is your question? Gene, you're on live now. Okay, let's go to our next caller. This is Heather in Glen Rose. Heather, you are on live now. What is your question?
Yep, and you've answered it pretty well. I am in Somervell County, close to Chalk Mountain. I was wondering when you're going to get that close to that rural of an area, but it sounds like I can go look online and figure that out.
That's right, Heather. You can. I will say that we actually have a line that goes through Chalk Mountain right now that we're serving a number of people off of on fiber today, but we don't go far off of 67 right now in that area. But probably within the next 12 months we will be.
Okay, great. We have to send my money to you instead of Harris, so that'd be great.
Well, we'll provide a whole lot better service than Harris provides you. I can guarantee you that.
No kidding. So. I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, let's check out another online question here. This is from Jeremy. Jeremy asks, is comparing a co-op to for-profit a fair measure of price point?
Jeremy, that's a good question. What we've got, you could say maybe it's not fair, but I think it's fair because, they get to choose what price they set, and they get to choose whether they compete with us or not. We don't have some of the costs that they have because we are not for profit, and so that allows us to be a little bit more competitive. But that's one of the advantages of you being on a co-op, and so our business model allows us to do things at a lower cost. Now, I will say this: we have the disadvantage of being rural. And so we have some extra costs that we have because we serve a lot less customers per mile than an Oncor, if you will. And so that makes it a little bit harder for us to compete from that standpoint because our cost is a little bit higher there. So it sort of balances out at the end. But ultimately, since the retail market was created and the REP market and all of that was put into place, there's been a number of studies that have been done that indicate that those co-ops and municipals that didn't opt into retail competition, that just stayed the way they were, it was very beneficial to those customers, and as compared to those customers that opted in and had to pick an REP. And so you save millions and millions of dollars as a customers as a whole for not being in the retail market, which we believe is a benefit to you.
Okay, thank you. We also have another online question here from Gary. And Gary asks, do you give any incentive for solar, and do you buy back at the same rate?
So Gary, it sort of goes a little bit to the question earlier, but it's a little different. As far as the way our solar rate works, we do allow the meter to flow and forward and backwards, so to speak. But to the extent that you overproduce beyond what you use in a month, we pay you basically the Brazos rate and Brazos PCRF for that, which is actually pretty high right now, which is why your bill is higher. But we don't pay you our distribution fee back ultimately because we're still delivering the energy to you. So that's hopefully that answers your question.
All right, thank you. We're going to go back to the phones now, and we have Mary on live here. Mary, what is your question?
Yes, I was wanting to ask, and I think I got cut off when they came to ask me my question about the $30 a month. But I just wanted to say on question one that option one at the 1.2 cents per kilowatt, we didn't know that amount when you asked the answer for that question, I don't believe. I think they stated it after. So I just wanted to say I would have probably chose option two. And I heard you start talking about it to one of the questions, but of course I got cut off to be allowed to ask my question with the operator.
Okay, that's fair. Let me ask this question. Would we be able to put that polling question back up, Dave, if we wanted to be more clear about that and see if the answer would change?
I could certainly ask the question again. I'm not in control of the poll on my end.
Okay. Well,
but I might.
you're right. I mean, it might have changed a few people's votes. I don't disagree with your point, Mary. That could have happened. So,
can you give the example, like an average usage of 2,000 kilowatt, or did you say about 4,000 times that 1.2
yeah, Mary, that's a good question. So when we do our rate comparisons against the other providers, we do it at 2,000 kilowatt hours because that's sort of the general average for a true residential user. And so if you apply that to the 1.2 to 1.5 cents, that puts you pretty close to the $30 a month. And so that's why I say that average ends up being, if you're on the fixed rate, it's about $30 a month. So it's designed by average to collect about $30 a month per consumer. But obviously, if you have a really small house and you use 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, you would pay something closer to $15 a month on your securitization charge as opposed to 30. And those that had a really big house that used 4,000 or 5,000 kilowatt hours would obviously pay a little bit more.
Yes. So I probably would have chosen maybe the fixed rate, but I'd have to go back and look at all my bills because we have several of them and see the usages. Okay. And just the other one on the solar, well, I had one other quick question I told her. On the solar rate, if we go in and we apply for this program, are we locked into that? And do we have any, do we need to worry about this solar never being available and then it cause a problem for us? Or no, just you would only sell what you have?
That's basically what happens, Mary. So whatever the solar panels produce, your little slice of them is what you would get delivered, and so you don't have to worry about whether or not they're it's cloudy all month or not. You would just get less credit from the solar, if you will. As far as your question about canceling it any time, yes, you can. The only thing we ask is people not to sign up one month and drop it the next month, but I guarantee you're not going to do that because you're going to want to get the savings every month. And so once you sign up for it, I think you'll be happy that you did.
All right. We're going to go to Alicia in Stephenville. Alicia, what is your question?
I'd like to know if we could get like a percentage towards construction completion on the internet. I like the map. It's great to see, but when you've been staring at under construction for 6+ months, it gets a little frustrating because you don't even know how maybe close you are to actually using the good internet.
I understand, Alicia. It's an issue that we struggle with. I'm just going to be honest with you why we probably don't give more information. We do have competitors out there that are trying to get in the way of providing you good service. And when we give too much information, and we've already seen this happen, they start messing up our process, if you will. And so we're trying not to give too much information to keep that from happening going forward. And so that's why it is the way it is. But I will tell you, around Stephenville, I don't know where you live specifically, we're probably about almost a third done with the distribution construction around Stephenville. And we've got probably almost 200 people connected already. That's on more the I'd say the east and southeast side of Stephenville, and we're working our way around.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to go to another online question. This comes from Fatima. And Fatima asks, does United send people door-to-door offering solar panel systems?
That's a good question. We do not do that. And so if someone comes to your house selling you solar, claiming that it's sanctioned by us or it is us, that's a lie. And a lot of times those same folks are the ones that are trying to get you to sign leases and different things that are not going to be financially advantageous to you. And so we don't do that. If we do get into the solar business and start installing here this next year, we won't be doing that either. It'll be something that you'll need to call us and set an appointment for. We won't be going door to door for that. Now, I will say we have gone door to door a little bit on internet, not a lot, but we've done it a little bit just to let neighborhoods know we're there. But we've never done it for anything else.
Okay, thank you. We're going back to the phones live here. We've got John from Morgan Mill. John, what is your question?
I bought this property in September of this last year. And so I wasn't a member during the big ice storm. The guy that I bought from was. So are you going to be, if Brazos bill comes through, are you going to be billing me or trying to bill the guy who bought the power during the ice storm?
John, that's a good question. I had that question every time we talk. The way that the Senate Bill 1580 was passed, it ties to the meter location. And so the way the Texas legislature felt that it was the best way to do it was to tie it to the meter location. So whoever is on our system, whether or not you were here during February or not, you will pay. It also applies to any new meter location. So if somebody builds a brand new house on our system, it will also apply to them. I think the legislature's intent in doing that was hopefully that our areas are all growing in Texas and that cost can be spread over more people as growth happens, which means the cost to each individual member will go down over time, which will be a benefit to everybody. The charges that I listed are sort of year one, day one charges, and they do project to go down over time, but unfortunately, if you're on a co-op, you're going to pay those charges.
Okay, we're going to go back to the phones here, and we have got Debbie in Granbury. Debbie, what is your question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I was just curious about the internet. Is it going to be based on individual charges if you hook up to it? Or is there going to be an increase in everyone's bill once it all kicks in? Because I live in Granbury, I don't have internet, I don't have a computer, and I don't want it. So is my cost on my bill going to be affected, or is it just based on individual hookups?
Debbie, that's a really, really good question. And so when we started this project, before we kicked it off, we did a significant amount of financial due diligence to ensure that it's a self-sustaining business so it wouldn't affect the electric rates. And all we have to do is follow the business plan, basically. And that's exactly what we've done, and we're actually exceeding the business plan at where we stand right now. And so what that means is, no, it won't flow to the electric rates at all. Our hope is, over time, is it actually might help the electric rates out in the future. Now, I can't promise that to anybody today, but if the business does really well and once we're done sort of serving our members, if we've exceeded the plan by the end of the period where we serve all our members, then the margins will be stronger than what we expected, and those would flow back and help the whole co-op as a whole, which would, help stabilize electric rates. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, next up we have Kevin from Mansfield. Kevin, you're on live. What is your question? Kevin, you're on live now. It looks like Kevin might have dropped off the line. Let's go now to Robert in Meridian. Robert, you're on live, and what is your question?
On the fiber optics that's coming to the houses, is that just strictly for computer, or will there be some pairs of the fiber optics that will be for TV?
Robert, that's a great question too. So basically, how our internet works, and most internet works, we're giving you a really fast and reliable pipe to the outside world. And so you really have the option to do whatever you want to do with it. So if you want to get a smart TV and tie that to the fiber, you'll have access to more TV programming than you could shake a stick at. We've made a choice as being a TV provider to not do that. And the reason we've done that is because there's so many options on the internet right now, and through the smart TV, we really didn't want to add costs to the internet service for just a few folks that want to use it sort of like the traditional cable service or the traditional direct TV service, because guess what, those services are going away too. And so the whole world is shifting to more of a streaming over the internet world. And so I think that's what we see, and most people are very happy with that choice for us not to be in the TV business. Now, I will tell you, we've had a lot of members tell us, we really do want to keep our phone, and so we really don't want to pay AT&T or CenturyLink for phone and you for internet. And so we actually have a way to connect a phone, your existing phone, to our internet pipe, so you can maintain your phone number and keep a phone It just runs over the internet, but it still works the same. You can keep the same handsets and everything. So we have had that request, and we do that. So ultimately, you'll be able to do everything you need to do, and it's probably going to cost you less money than it cost you today.
Okay, we're going to go to one more online question, and this comes from Shelley. Shelley asks, how is it determined how much each individual home will be required to pay back in total, and what if you sold your home since then?
Shelley, I got your question. Thanks for asking it. I think I've covered that, but ultimately, we take the whole charge and then we spread it across the membership, and so everybody sort of either does it by kilowatt hour charge or by a fixed fee. But ultimately, it's going to be as simple as that. There's not going to be allocation depending on how long you've lived or any other factor. It's just as simple as it's either by usage or by fixed flat fee. And so hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, that's going to bring us to the end of our question and answer period, and we just want to remind everyone that if we didn't get a chance to get to your question, you can leave us a voicemail after the event by simply remaining on the line or call our office at 817-556-4000. Again, the number 817-556-4000. And that just about brings us to the end of today's town hall. I'm going to turn it back over to Cameron for some final thoughts. Cameron.
Dave, thanks so much for your help tonight, and for the members that logged in tonight, thank you so much for your time. We were able to finish it right at an hour. I hope it was useful to you. If you have any questions, concerns, like Dave said, you can leave the message there, or you can just call into the office, and we'd be glad to answer any question or concern you have. If there's something that we could do better, we always want to know it. This is your co-op, and we're all ears, and so if you have any suggestions as to how we can do things better or improve, we would love to figure that out, and especially if a large number of members are bringing up the same questions. So obviously there were a lot of people that asked questions tonight that we weren't able to get to. A lot of them have to be when will internet be here? And so I would just encourage you to continue to watch the maps on the website, and I think that'll give you some information as we go forward. So again, thank you all. God bless, and take care, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks a lot, Cameron. Again, thanks to everyone for participating tonight, and have a nice evening.